This video is part 2 of our custom countertop display. First off, we'll learn to add our display to the user library. We will learn how to make further adjustments to the flaps. And then we'll set up the folding stages and sequence numbers. We'll also show you some best practices for positioning in the 3D view. Let's get started.
Okay, we're going to pick up from our last video, and this is where we left off with this nice little display that we've created. And before I go on though, I think what I want to do is save this display so that I can use it from this point and make changes. Instead of saving it to a drawing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my user library. So I'm just going to call this C-top display, and I don't want it to be in the free form. I'm just going to put it in a display catalog. I'll use standard and then I'll just say description countertop display. That's enough info there, and so I'm going to add it to my library. And it says that the changes made up to this point will be saved in the catalog, and if I wish to continue, and yes, I do. So now I've saved that, I can actually go back and retrieve it and start from that point, just like I have here. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a few more changes to this that would make it a better display. And so I'm going to go back to my construction view, and I want to set up a few things so that this will actually fold up better. So to begin with, I'm on this section right here, and this is 455, but the problem is that will take it all the way out to the outside edge here. So when it folds up, it's actually not going to fold inside of this panel. So the way that I'll fix that is I'm going to go to the edit offsets, and you can see that I have a choice here. I'm going to pick the top. Now remember, as we said before, the arrow is pointing in this direction, so this looks like the side of this flap, but it's actually the top. And so I'm going to click on the top, and I want to move it into thickness, one thickness, so that it will fit inside that panel. So I go OK here, and then on this one over here I have to do something because it folds in the same plane as this one, and I want it to fold outside of that. So I'm going to go on this edit offsets, and I'm going to click on the top, but this time what I want to do is I want it to add to the top, not subtract. So I'm going to press this button here. When it turns red, that means I'm going in the opposite direction, away from the end of the flap instead of back in. So now this will fold up. It should fold up correctly, but you're going to see that we have another little problem. We'll take care of that in a minute, but let's take a look. If we zoom in here, we can see where the problem is, and it's not such a problem that we can't live with it, but this glue flap, I don't like it being up so close to the top like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slope this so that it kind of gets out of the way. And I'll go back to the construction, and what I'm going to do is right click on this, and then I'm going to click on this point. And remember our points, this is 0 in the X direction, so I'm just going to make this 10, and what that'll do is it will slope that down a little bit, and then I'll go down to the bottom and I'll just make this 210, and that will make it slope up to the top. So there we got that, and that working all right. So if we go back to our 3D view, that kind of brings it down a little bit. If we twist around here to where we can see how that glue flap is on there, so that's pretty good. Now I want to set up my fold stages so that we can actually see this thing fold up in order. And so we'll go back to the construction view. I'll unfold this to begin with, and we're going to go back to the construction view, and I'm going to start with my front. Now what I generally like to do on the front one here, in the active section is where you set up the fold sequence. And so what I do with this one is I don't change the sequence number, but I do change the angle, and I set it to 0 because I don't want it to fold at all. I just want it to stay stationary, and I'll show you why in a minute. But so the next thing is these two sides, I'm going to leave those set at 1 in the fold sequence, and then I'll set this flap at 3, or no, I set it at 2, I'm sorry. And then the glue flap here, I'll set that at 3. Now these two flaps down here, I'm going to set those to 4, and there we go. And then finally on my two long flaps here, I'm going to set them to 5. Now you'll notice that the last number in my sequence is 5. So when we go to 3D here, and it brings up our folding controls, notice the stages here. I only have 4 stages. I need 5 stages, and so I'm gonna pull that over to make it 5 stages, so that it will take 100% to fold it up all the way. Now when I set that first front to 0, the reason why I did that is because if it's not set to 0, well, I'll show you what I mean right here. It'd be better just to show it to you. So I'm going to fold this all the way up, and right now with it set to 0, I can manipulate my box and use my mouse to spin it around so I can see it. Now let's go back to the construction view, and if we change this one back to 90 degrees how it was, we go back to our 3D, and now you see the box is, it's very hard to position it because it's wanting to rotate on that front, but the front is also rotating 90 degrees. So now you don't really have the front of the box, I guess, I don't want to say parallel, but perpendicular or whatever. So like I said, I will set that to 0, And that gives me the ability to rotate that box once I have it up and position it much easier so that I can show what it does. Now let's unfold it, and now what I'm going to do, I've got it positioned here. I'm just going to hit the play button and we can watch it go through the stages of folding up according to the sequence, and everything will fold into position just how we want it. So there we go. Very nice. It's folding up very nicely, and you can watch that. You can even move it around if you want while it's folding, and that way you can see different stages fold up. And there you go. So that's all for this video, and we're going to do some more customization to this in the next video, and we'll see how that works out.